Links are sent, so we should have more people coming. And we've already had some retweets. Cool. Alright. Alright, so what are we doing here? What are you doing, cat? Grooming yourself? The suit still needs a little bit of work, and in the end I think we need to like alpha this, so the skin underneath. And of course we've already done that. Hello, Ellie. Yeah, Zuby's gonna sell the cat, so if anybody's looking to get a cat or be a cat, it'll be out probably within the month. Easily within the month. Okay, so let's get this stream started. We got 7 people watching now. We're going to log out of Second Life. Yes. We are in Blender. Why can't I get my screen here? Huh. What the heck? Blender, here we go. We're on an eye bone here. So eyes can be pretty tricky. Hello everyone. I'm probably going to start the video here. Yep. Awesome. I'm not really a cat. You never know though. Okay, so we are rigging eyes today. There are some special things that people might probably need to know about eyes. They are kind of tricky. You know, as I was... a lot of times I take a lot of the stuff for granted that I know some of the stuff. Okay, so we have some eyes. I want to show... I want to get rid of the head here. So the head is right there. Let's get rid of it and get rid of the eyelashes. So here's the Second Life eyeball. Okay, which is kind of strange. You know, has this bump here, which a lot of eyes, you know, are like that. And there are all kinds of tutorials on Second Life, or not, on eyeball creation, I should say. And they're very cool. I'm just talking about rigging them, though. So I'm not going to do all this. I'm not going to make a shape like this, but I want to talk about the principles of rigging an eye and making them work correctly. Okay, so if we look at this eye, eye bone here, okay, that point of the eye bone is the center, should be the center pivot point of the eye. If you do not have that as the center pivot point of the eye, it will not rotate correctly. Okay, when your eye looks one way, if it's not perfectly centered, it's gonna not move with your eyelids and eye opening correctly. Okay, so the most important thing is to center your eyeball. Okay, if we look at this eyeball, we can see it's not perfectly straight, even though I'm pretty sure this bone has no bone roll in it or anything. This should be perfectly straight. And if we look at it, it's not. Well, why is that eyeball not perfectly straight? Well, I'll tell you right off the bat here that it's because those eyeballs are constrained to the eye focus. Okay, so the eyeballs are constrained to, the eye bones are constrained to the eye focus. And if we go into our properties here and we go under bone constraints, we see we have a damp track to the face eye target. That's alt target, but they work the same way. Okay, so that is making the eye move inward. Okay, so to have it at its default, when you're rigging, it's just probably not great to have this all on and everything. And to be perfectly honest, I don't touch the eyes. I don't animate the eyes, generally speaking, only when I have to. I like the eyeballs to work with the system eyes. I think that looks great. So I don't really touch them. So because of that, I take away the stamp track. Okay? So I'm on the Alt right there. So let's get rid of the damn track on the other one. I want to show extra, and that'll show my actual eye, the actual eye bone. I'm going to take that off and take that off. And now, if we look at the eyeball bone from above, it is perfectly straight. We look at the eyeball from the side, and now the eyeball is perfectly straight, perfectly facing forward. And in a human eye, this is how it should be. Okay, now, you know, of course, every human is different and whatever, but this is how the default avatar works and the default eyes. Okay, so now that we understand and we have our eyes straight and everything, how did we get this eyeball centered? Okay, if we look, this is obviously the center point, and it goes almost directly through the center of that point, which it probably should, or maybe these aren't perfectly centered, but I'm going to show you how to make eyeballs that are perfectly centered. Okay. And in the end, I'll show you some custom eyes that probably on the cat, and how I kind of handled eyelids, eye blinking, that kind of thing. Okay, so let's make an eyeball real quick. So I'm going to go to a different layer. I'm going to add a mesh. I want it to be a UV sphere. Okay, so that's basically my eyeball. And I'm going to hit 1 on the keyboard. Select the sphere, go into edit mode. I'm going to hit faces. I'm going to select the face, make it sure it's see-through. Box select up. And I'm just going to cut the eye in half because that's really all I need. And delete faces. So now I have half an eye. This is obviously the center of the eye right here. So, and then this would be like the iris or whatever. Okay, so there's my eyeball. I probably want this to be smooth. What am I doing here? I always miss where this stuff is. It's not there. In tools, smooth shading. There we go. Okay. So we have a eyeball, smooth. Let's show the other layer. So we want to scale this down. Hit N on the keyboard. And let's always remember that we want to keep scale at 1. If we scale a mesh in object mode, it will change your scale here. We do not want to do that. So we want to go into edit mode, select all. Now I can scale my mesh down and scale it. And we'll go 93 on the keyboard. I'll hit, I'll turn that 90. And we'll bring it up towards the head. Go scale this down, try and match the eye. Alright, turn that snapping off, and we're pretty close. And actually we don't have to do any of that really, because I'm going to make, we know, because I cut this sphere in half, we know that the center pivot point of the eye is the center of this ring. Okay, so I selected on edge. I'm going to select another edge and hit Alt on the keyboard. And that's going to select my whole ring. That makes my center point here. And then I can hit Shift S, move cursor to selected. Now I want to go mesh, transform, or I need to do this in not edit mode. So out of edit mode, object, transform, object, transform, origin to 3D cursor. So that gives me my exact center point of the eye. Now, if I select this bone, now which one do I want to use? Depends on which one you're going to rig to. Technically, these should both be in the exact same spot. I don't know why they're not. But we'll use the normal Second Life eyes. And I want to hit Alt Shift S on the keyboard. Cursor to selected. That gives me my center point there. My 3D cursor. This is the beauty of using the 3D cursor. Okay, so now I have the 3D cursor there. I can select my new eyeball and I can go Shift S, selection to cursor. That centers my eye perfectly. Okay, so that's my eyeball now. Now I could scale it down from here. I could go into object mode, select all, and scale it from here. I do not want to scale it like that. If we look at it, it's scaling, it's not scaling from the center point. So I could either, this is your pivot, so I could pivot on the 3D cursor and scale it like this, and I would always scale correctly and the eye would always rotate correctly. Now I think I could also active element. Could I do that? Could it scale correctly there? No. Not median point. I don't think. No. It's wherever that cursor is too. So we would know that. Individual origins. No. Yeah. So I'd have to use the 3D cursor. So you'd have to set it, and then you could easily scale the eyeball like that. But that's the basics of creating an eyeball, and then from here you can go and shape your eye however you want. And of course this is, a pretty easy UV map. You can probably just project the map like here. How can I do that? Project from view, and then go to UV, and there we go. So there's my eyeball, and I could scale it in my view to cover the whole area. Hit G to move it. So that's basically how to create an eyeball, how to center it, and how to get it lined up perfectly, and getting rid of those damp tracks for the eye target. And a little bit about eyelids. Okay. Now I'm going to go to a different file here. I'm going to go to the cat to kind of show what I did with eyelids. So I didn't create this mesh. Zuby gave it to me, and then I took it and I had to edit the mesh to give it enough geometry to make eyelids. So I didn't have enough in here to be able to grab any points to pull down for an eyelid. So I had to add that geometry in here so I could have enough to pull and pull up. Okay, so that's one note about eyelids. The rig, I'll show you this. These are custom eyes. I'm not using any default settings here. I'll go into pose mode like that. So I just want to show you how I have my eyes set up. My eyelids. So I moved my eyelid forward slightly and slightly up. Now what that does is that gives me, I'm not following the same path of the eyeball. Okay, I'm giving it like more room, slightly off from the eyeball pivot. Okay, and that allows me to come further down with the top eyelid. Okay, because the top eyelid is the one that really travels the most. What am I doing there? Alt R. The bottom eyelid doesn't really come up that much. But you can see where I created this extra geometry. This extra geometry for the eyelid there. And if you look at this bottom one, I did kind of the same thing. Moved it forward, moved it down slightly, so it's moving on a slightly different path. Of course, it totally falls apart up here, but, and I, encourage you to play around with this pivot for this eyelid to get better results on custom avatars. On default avatars, if you're doing a regular human and you want it to use all the sliders and everything, you cannot move these bones. So don't do any of this. But on a custom avatar, like on a custom rig, then you do have some leeway about how you move around these. And like I said, play with these pivots. I've even had this pivot slightly lower, and that gives me a nice path that goes over the eye. So, but that's I think that's basically eyes. I don't know if there's anything more. If you have any questions, you can ask me in chat. I think there's only 8 people watching right now. Maybe everyone's eating lunch. Huh? But that's a quick video on eyes. I hope it helps people a little bit. Real quick, when you're animating eyes, a blink happens ridiculously fast, faster than half a second. So if you're making an eye blink, just make sure that it is really fast. It's probably much faster than you think it is. So those are my tips on blinking. I think that's the video. Have a good one, everyone.